in 2001, I became the diocesan coordinator and started attending the national gatherings and the meetings of members. And very quickly, I discovered that across the country there was this animated conversation that always came around to the name, and that conversation really, for many years, did not go anywhere. By the same token, it did not go away, um, and for me personally, well, especially at the beginning, I thought we don't need a new name, and so I was fairly resistant. I was also so I moved kind of from resistance to reluctance to, I guess, some ambivalence. Like if we do, we do; we don't, we don't. Um, and and increasingly, listening to the many voices across the country, became convinced that this was something we needed to consider and we needed to do. So, with that long history of people who both resisted and advocated for the name change, eventually the board and the strategic planning working group said the time has come. We need to put things in place to work towards a new name. And so in July of 2022, the strategic planning working group developed the terms of reference, and the terms of reference were for a task team, and that task team was asked to identify and promote a new name for PWRDF. The task team would eventually work with a third-party agency on the renaming process, and you'll see that in the presentation. Members of the board emphasized the need for regular updates to the board, and for the constituencies from the task team to ensure that the process itself was collaborative. And great care was taken to ensure that that all stakeholders were represented on the task team. So our proposed new name, ta-da! It's exciting. It's exciting. We begin actually with a quote from Scripture, because what we do is grounded in Scripture, but also in our call as people of God, and particularly this one, that we are God's co-workers. We work together. You are God's field, God's building. We work together in this ministry that is PWRDF. We got started, as I spoke a little bit about kind of the background to this, but PWRDF engaged a creative agency called Science Solutions for the renaming project. And with Science Solutions, we have been through 12 months of collaboration, more than 15 meetings and workshops with all kinds of people, with over 50 committee members, with PWRDF staff, with volunteers, with board members, with the task team, and with others across Canada. In that time, over 200 name options were explored. And I think it's important to say here that as we look for this new name, I think many of us had an idea of what we might have liked to have seen, but there are a whole bunch of complicating factors as we look for a new name. Many names that we might have liked have been taken, or copyrighted by somebody else, and so as we explored all those 200 plus names, it became apparent that that our scope was much more limited than we might have hoped. And here's part of the process of how we came to conclude where we are with the name. We had a new name committee, and that committee, and you will see the names of the members of the task team at the end of this presentation, but consisting of volunteers, clergy, board members, staff, and other stakeholders. And we began talking about a new name. And we also talked to the meeting of members at a national gathering, and asked people for words and expressions that they felt typified the work and ministry of PWRDF. And as we did, the more talking we did, the more emerged a very strong theme, that of partnership. PWRDF is all about partnerships. In fact, the former primate, Archbishop Fred Hiltz, former primate, would used to say that the P in PWRDF could easily stand for partners. So here's our partnership context. We partner with organizations who carry out the work that we support. And so in those organizations, there are local groups of all sizes. There are communities that design the programs, and we support the programs. And those programs, as you know, involve many things like food security and gender rights, and training on conservation, agriculture, creating income opportunities. They're quite wide, extensive. We partner with member organizations, and those member organizations allow us to leverage our size, our smaller size, and to be part of a network, and to be even more effective in the ministry that we carry out. And so some of those membership organizations include the Anglican Alliance, the ACT Alliance, the Canadian Food Grains Bank, Kairos, Cooperation Canada, and as I said, there are others. We partner as well with other funding agencies, including Global Affairs Canada, and you will have known that that we had for a number of years some quite extensive programs that we offered with the support of Global Affairs Canada. We partner also with businesses and growing increasingly a growing number of private and family foundations. We partner with the Anglican Church of Canada, with dioceses, with spiritual ministries and ecclesiastical provinces, and we do that through their bishops and their PWRDF reps. And they partner with us and support our programs, and they invite us to come speak about the work in the ministry of PWRDF. We partner with parish representatives, with clergy, and with many other volunteers who in the pews across our country, people who love and are passionate about the ministry that we do, and who share our stories, who encourage others to share in this. And so we move to another scripture passage that also helps inform how we came to our new name. And it is this one. There is one body and one spirit, just as you were called to the one hope of your calling. And many of us will recognize that as the opening sentences to the service of baptism, which speaks a little bit to our baptismal covenant and our call as God's people, as well as speaking to our hope. There are many scripture passages that one could point to support the work that we do with PWRDF, but one in particular that really came to us as we were thinking about this was the story of the road to Emmaus. And just briefly, that days after Jesus died, the disciples were leaving Jerusalem. They were on the road to Emmaus, and as they were walking along, the resurrected Jesus came alongside them. They didn't recognize him. They didn't know who he was, but they had a conversation with him, and he talked to them about what had happened. And then they came close to the end of the day, and he went as to go on, and they invited them to dine with them. So he accepted their hospitality to dine with them. And in the breaking of the bread, during that meal, their eyes were opened and they recognized the risen Christ. What that teaches us is that, well, lots of things, but in this particular context, when we walk alongside one another, Jesus accompanies us, and we are strengthened and we are comforted, and we recognize Jesus in one another as we share in the feast that he has provided to us. Partners support each other. They walk alongside each other as Jesus walked alongside those disciples. They listen to each other. They share resources. They accompany each other as equals on a journey together. As we walk alongside each other, each of our partners, as we support and listen and share with one another, we embrace and embody the hope of a truly just, healthy, and peaceful world. And so, working on those two themes of walking alongside one another and that of being a people of hope, as we are called to be through Scripture, was born our new name, Alongside Hope. Here's what we feel about our new name, Alongside Hope. It emphasizes the active collaboration, the partnerships, the teamwork, the community aspects of our ministry. The name is complementary to the pursuits of our organization. It speaks to our aspirational endeavors, but it also speaks to the practical part of our ministry. Hope is a necessary element to our work. It is something we are called to as people of God, to be people of hope. And of course, it must be partnered with resources in order to achieve the goals that we set out for each other. The name Alongside Hope conveys the concept of partnership in a simple and uplifting way. It is easy to understand and easy to pronounce. It requires no lengthy acronym or alphabet soup. And so all of us who've been around PWRDF for such a long time will understand why those two things were important. But there's other parts of the name Alongside Hope. There's other aspects of it. It de-emphasizes a colonial top-down approach of giving. It emphasizes a more collaborative approach, which is embodied by that concept of partnership. With the tagline, and this is an important part, because an important part of our name will be our tagline, to honor our organization's legacy as an Anglican aid organization. For many of us, well, we know, for example, that the bulk of our support comes from Anglicans, and we wanted to make sure that in a new name, our tie to our faith and our calling as God's people and to our Anglican heritage, that tie is maintained. So with the tagline, and we will see the tagline in a moment, it will honor our organization's legacy. And it is a name that will carry us forward into the future, because increasingly we find that we want to appeal to people who may not necessarily identify as part of the Anglican Church of Canada, but who understand and see our work and our ministry as something valuable and important and would like to be a part of it. And so we hope that this name will carry us forward into that future. Here's a lovely little graphic, a video of Alongside Hope. And here it is with our tagline: alongside hope, Anglicans and partners working for change in Canada and around the world. As with the Province Rural Relief and Development Fund, we have a French translation, Auprès de l'Espoir, to go along with our name. A special thank you to the members of the task team who assisted with this and who consulted with us in this. And here, I won't give you all the details, but I will read out the names of the members of the task team so that you can see them. Elin Golden, Frida Lepine, Carrie Lubrick, Bishop Bruce Myers, Lynn Shoemaker, Duncan Chalmers, and your pictures, here you go. Charlotte Lilly, Shailene Caparis, myself, Manita Swati, Janice Bean, Carolyn Cummins, and Will Postma. And a special thank you to all of them. And thank you to all of you for listening. And we're going to now open up for discussion and next steps. And before I turn that over for input and comments, I will just to say a couple of things that I can tell you about the next steps. Because we're discussing proposing changing the name of our organization, that is what is called a special resolution according to our bylaws. And any special resolution that comes to a meeting of members has to be shared with the meeting, the members 21 days prior to the vote in sufficient detail for the members to be able to make an informed decision. So that is why we are hearing the name today, and why we will have a special meeting of members. It's a bit more than 21 days from now, but we will have a special meeting of members in which we will have the vote.